You were a pumpkin.
I was a pumpkin, a big orange pumpkin.
A big orange pumpkin. And were there a lot of children out there?
Not so much.
No? Did you get a lot of candy?
Yeah, I got a lot of candy. Mommy's eating all the chocolate bars.
Well, tell Mommy that's your candy, honey.
Okay.
Tell her.
Stop eating all my chocolate bars, Mommy. Getting sick.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we'll cross this time-space continuum that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and throughout the province of Ontario and the upper tiers of the great United States, on your hometown classic radio, 1220 CFAJ AM, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners across Canada and wherever Canadians may be on this little blue planet of ours. I hope that everybody has enjoyed their turkey dinner that usually lasts another 3 to 4 weeks, depending how big the turkey was. And so anyway, happy Thanksgiving. May the gobbling be with you. All right, that was pretty bad. I'll take that. Anyway, we've got a great show lined up for you tonight. My first guest is Sharon Hill, and she's an independent researcher of anomalous natural phenomenon and paranormal popular culture. She's the author of Scientifical Americans, The Culture of Amateur Paranormal Researchers, where she examined how ghost hunters, cryptozoologists, and UFO chasers attempt to use science for their investigations. She has published in Fortean Times and Skeptical Inquirer. She has a degree in Geosciences from Penn State University and a master's degree in education focusing on science and the public from the State University of Buffalo, New York. Joining me now from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, is my guest this hour, Sharon Hill. And Sharon, happy Thanksgiving to you, even though yours isn't till a couple of weeks from now? You're in November, right?
Yeah, we got a couple weeks left to go. Yep. Great to be with you, Rob.
Nice having you again with us. For the audience that has joined us since you were last with us when we were talking of the paranormal, cryptids, cryptozoology, and basically spooky geology, tell us how you got started in this weird, wacky, wonderful world that we call the paranormal.
Gee, I think a lot of people will say they've always been interested in it, even when they were little, and they learned how to read, and they loved reading books on ghosts and monsters, and same with me. I've always loved it. I don't know why. And when I was in school and learning science, I was still interested in it, and I wanted to know how I can apply what I learned there to figuring out what was going on with paranormal claims. So fast forward to the 21st century here, my degree in geosciences, geology, and I'm still interested in the paranormal. And now I do quite a bit in the intersection of geology in relation to spooky ideas. So that's where spooky geology comes in. But I've always loved cryptids. Cryptids are my favorite. And so that's what I'd love to talk to you about that tonight.
Well, we're going to, but I have to ask you this. Have you ever had a paranormal experience?
No. And I'm just one of those people who just doesn't really have and I would doubt it even if I did. I
Yeah.
think I know so much about how people can make mistakes, how our senses can
Mm-hmm.
be fooled, that I would be, even if I did have something weird happen to me, I think I would be the kind of person that would constantly be looking for the rational explanation, you know?
I've been on many ghost hunts. I've been on many ghost tours doing the show over the number of years that we've been doing it. And I have yet to have a paranormal experience. Now, I want to believe me, I really want to believe. But as a former police officer and investigator, something tells me inside, listen, until you see the evidence, you just can't go on first-hand information, because most of the time the paranormal first-hand information is either internet research or just people, like you said, not knowing what they've seen, and they add one on one, it comes out to 67.
Yeah.
So why is it you think that after all the years you've worked on these questions, that there are people like you and I who just don't have the paranormal experiences that other people have? Now, I've gone on to a ghost tour in the Fort George here in Niagara, and we were walking through, and people were saying, "Can you hear the violin? Can you hear the little girls laughing?" And this is 11 o'clock at night, right? And
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking around saying, what am I not getting? So we get back to where the tour started from, and Kyle Upton from Ghost Tours Niagara does a fascinating job, a real great guy. I get back to the station because I'm doing a series on this phenomenon, right? Just to find out that Fort George, where everybody was having the hearing of the violins, the people giggling, and so on, in that fort, the fort wasn't there. The fort was actually further away and was totally destroyed. So what they did was they just built a new fort that looked like it. So I'm saying, well, what is it that I'm not getting? Is it the fact that these people go on these tours, these ghost hunts, the search for Bigfoot, UFO chasers, that they want to believe so much that the littlest thing that happens, the mind kicks in, you've got pareidolia happening, and bang, they've had the experience. And where people like you and I are more logical will say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things happening. I equate it to, we all have different ranges of senses. Some people can't see as well. Some people can't hear as well. Some people can hear precisely. Some people can taste things differently than other people. And I'm wondering if that plays a part in it. So some people are going to perceive things with their own senses a little bit more sensitive than other people, or there could be something that we're just not measuring. But I think you hit the nail on the head when people really want to believe. Believing is seeing, and they will enhance their views, and that's how they will interpret these as really interesting paranormal experiences. Makes them feel special, makes them feel connected maybe to the past or the environment, and it gives them an exciting view of the world that maybe you and I can't see.
And we know for a fact that more and more people are getting interested in the paranormal. In fact, it's turned into a tourism industry that they call paratourism.
Right.
And there's big money in it. And
absolutely.
When you look at places like the Waverly, where all these groups go night after night, and they all have all these experiences, seeing shadow people out of the corner of their eyes, seeing things move, getting EVPs. And my thought is, well, wait a second. This has been going on for a number of years at the Waverly. If there were ghosts, and I'm doing the air sign of quotes, if there are ghosts there, wouldn't they be kind of fed up by now and with all these people trudging through? And why in the name of heavens would they stay there? So there's more questions to the paranormal than there are answers.
Yeah, and hotels in particular are big on promoting their ghosts. Some places used to be embarrassed and not want to talk about the paranormal legends that were associated with those places. Now they realize that there could be some money in it, and they will charge paranormal investigators to come and stay the night at some places or even historic locations. because they know that they can. And sometimes that money is used in restoration of historical buildings or features. So, I mean, it's not all bad, but it could potentially come out with producing fake history. Like you said, some of these stories aren't fact-checked. They're not legitimate. They're kind of misinformation. So maybe it's kind of a double-edged sword here.
I remember having a discussion with Joe Nickel from the Skeptical Inquirer, who calls himself the party pooper of the paranormal. I love that guy. And he's, you wrote for Skeptical Inquirer, right? So I'm sure
I
that
know
you.
Joe. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did he give you a wooden nickel too?
He did.
Yeah. I've got mine on the wall.
Great.
He says that when you look at the paranormal through a scientific eye, there is no proof. But if you look at the paranormal through the I want to believe eye, everything is right in front of you.
Yeah.
Now,
and it doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's super important to our culture.
It is.
Too. Yeah.
Whether it's theology, which Christianity has a lot of paranormal activity in it,
right,
to everyday society, for example, Halloween coming up. It's a mega industry. Mm-hmm. Mind you, I think Halloween is actually backed by the Canadian and American Dental Society. But, we need that in culture, and I believe that we need to believe, but we also need to know where the line between fact and fiction lies and use our common sense. You and I are going to be taking a little break in a couple of minutes, my producer says. And when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about cryptids, because apparently this is your favorite topic.
It is.
How would you describe a cryptid to someone listening tonight who has no idea that they were just in their car and they tuned it to Classic 1220 CFAJ here in Niagara or wherever in Ontario? How would you describe cryptids?
Any weird sentient thing. At this point in history, and that's the tough definition for cryptid. It's changed over time, but right now anything goes.
Reminds me of a few people I've had in my life. Exonation.
Weird sentient thing?
Yeah, those two. Exonation, my guest this hour is Sharon Hill. And if you'd like to find out more about Sharon, visit her website at SharonAHill.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios of the X Zone Broadcast Network and Rollmar McConnell Media Company, right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, just down the street, as a matter of fact, from Classic 1220 CFAJ. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And with that, our guest and I will be taking a short coffee break, and we will be back as we continue investigating the paranormal. And here in the X Zone, we're searching for answers. But you know what? We're also demanding the truth. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Death has come to your little town.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise,
He did the mash,
he did the monster
the
mash.
monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
he did the mash.
He did the monster mash. From my love Notari in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abodes to catch a jolt
And welcome back, everyone. Sharon Hill is our special guest of this hour. Her website, www.sharonahill.com. We're talking about cryptids this segment of the show. And Sharon, what is the origin of cryptozoology?
Cryptozoology is a field of study, and it was envisioned as a subdiscipline to zoology. And so this was back in like the 30s at that point when the people who were envisioning it were thinking about it. But the term arose probably in the late 1950s, around there, and it was popularized by a Belgian zoologist named Bernard Heuvelmans. And he was subsequently called the father of cryptozoology. And his idea was that scholars investigated reports of legendary animals and like stories known to natives of the area that appeared not to match with established species. So the goal was to discover and scientifically recognize those new species. And at the same time, Ivan T. Sanderson was pursuing many various mysteries of nature, including unexplained animal accounts. So together, Heuvelmans and Sanderson were the pioneers of the field, but there were many scientists at that time who also backed the venture. In fact, in the 1980s, cryptozoology had a scientific reputation and many participation of scientists in the International Society of Cryptozoology. That was in 1982. The term cryptid was coined in 1983. In a letter to the ISC newsletter, cryptid was proposed instead of calling things unknown monsters or things like that. They didn't like that term. It was unscientific. So a man named John E. Wall, and he was from Manitoba, proposed the term cryptid to indicate a living thing having the quality of being hidden or unknown. And it took about 10 years for the term cryptid to actually get into the wider public sphere. And of course, now it's all over the place. But then things took a turn. By the 90s, the research and the expeditions that were promoted by the society, they didn't pan out. I mean, we didn't find Yeti, Champ, Loch Ness Monster, unfortunately. And there were other internal things that happened, and the society failed. But at that point, there were many indications that cryptozoology was going its own way, and without the gatekeepers, and it was taken over by non-scientists, and it became more aligned with paranormal subjects. And I think that really set the stage for what happened in the 21st century, modern cryptozoology, or maybe it's postmodern cryptozoology, because it's a very different scene from what Heuvelmans imagined.
Where did the connotation of the present-day Bigfoot come from, the description? As you know, I've had Lauren Coleman on the show many times, and other well-known so-called Sasquatch hunters or Bigfoot hunters or researchers. They all have these different ideas about Bigfoot. And if you're investigating something ever since the time of, what was the name of that film down? The Bigfoot.
The
Patterson-Gimlin film. And everybody these days who goes into the forest has with them their cell phone that has a high-definition camera on it. Still to this day, no one has brought forth the smoking gun that Bigfoot does exist. So what is the attraction if there's nothing there? Well, wait a minute. I just answered my own question, because it's the same as ghost hunting. It's the same as UFO chasing. But what if Bigfoot, which seems more tangible than UFOs or ghosts, does lurk in the forest? Doesn't it make sense that by now there would be the proof, the unequivocal proof that Bigfoot is real, and yet there's not?
If it's an animal, yeah. I mean, the way it's described, we should have found evidence by now. And every day that goes by that there isn't a Bigfoot body or part of a body or DNA discovered, it's way less likely that it actually exists as described. And the reason I say that is because we have this image of Bigfoot, and it came very much from that Patterson-Gimlin film of Patty back in the 50s, or whatever it was, 50s, 60s is when the Bigfoot idea became associated in pop culture. So that's what we imagine it looks like. But people are having experiences that they're interpreting as a Bigfoot experience, and I'm sure that they have had scary incidents in the woods. Something has happened to them. They have had a scary experience, but we don't really know what that is, because we can't say it's a Bigfoot because we haven't found one. So it's a true mystery.
Don't you
like that answer?
I love it. I really do love it. Is it a mystery or is it a want-to-be fact? And in my opinion, there's a big difference. A mystery is something that is tangible that cannot be unexplained. However, Bigfoot is neither tangible or explainable.
Right. That's why I like to think of it as an experience.
Okay.
Somebody is having a Bigfoot experience. That's what they're interpreting it. And we can't say it's a Bigfoot, just like we can't say something is a ghost, because we haven't defined a ghost, because we haven't had, captured one in a box to gather exactly what its characteristics are. We're just assuming. We're just making a construct, a social construct about what this thing is based on all the stories that we have. So yeah, Bigfoot, it's probably not a real animal, but man, I'd be happy if tomorrow it was discovered. That would be really cool.
There are those people out there who believe that there are conspiracies within the paranormal, that the governments of the world do not want the answers to be found. For example, with UFOs, right? Now, I'm saying if UFOs can pose such a conspiratorial threat by the government, isn't it possible that UFO conspiracies, as well as Bigfoot conspiracies, are actually being perpetrated by those who are looking for Bigfoot? Because as long as they do not find Bigfoot or UFOs or extraterrestrials, the topic stays alive. But once it's discovered, bang, that's the end of it.
That's true. Yeah. And maybe since they don't exist as people describe them, it will go on forever. So it becomes more like a folk idea instead of a scientific one. We'll always have witches and fairies, right?
Yes, we will. And of course, we also have Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, and everything else. That is part of society.
Yeah.
Where do most of the paranormal investigators, or I should say Bigfoot investigators, get their research material today if we haven't been able to find a cadaver to investigate?
Yeah, it's changed over time, and I think that there's a big shift in the idea of cryptids now, and maybe we can talk about that later on. But Bigfoot in particular, it's got quite a bit more paranormal association with it now. It's often associated with high strangeness events, like lights now are a big deal. Like lights in the forest is associated with Bigfoot. UFOs in the past have been associated with Bigfoot, people thinking that it was actually an alien creature that was coming and visiting us, or interdimensional creature, ultra-terrestrial, things that go in and out of dimensions, which makes a lot of sense. If it suddenly disappears and you can't find it, well, that's a convenient explanation. So I call that the supernatural creep. When science can't answer the questions about this thing, people tend to push science to the side and start to accept more extreme explanations, and including supernatural ones. So that's kind of happened with Bigfoot. I think people are getting their information now from podcasts and YouTube channels and social media and TV shows and things like that. And they're not getting it from books, or they're not getting it from scientific papers. So yeah, it's coming from people who believe and who want this to be real.
I think that a lot of people now are using the extraterrestrial hypothesis with Bigfoot, because more and more people are saying, hey, wait a minute, Star Wars, there was someone that looked like a Bigfoot there. Oh, was that Chewbacca? Wow. Maybe there is an extraterrestrial connection. And of course, now many UFO investigators are saying that, yes, Bigfoot is part of the UFO phenomena, and no more, according to many UFO investigators that we've had on this show recently. They're saying that ETs and Bigfoot are not from other planets, they're interdimensional.
Right. That's a very John Keel idea, yeah.
Yeah. And when you challenge them on where they get the information, you can't get a straight answer.
Right.
The biggest one is, well, hey, it was in the movie Star Wars. Okay. Now, like I said at the beginning, I want to believe. I want to believe that UFOs are real. I've never seen one. I want to believe that Bigfoot is real. I've never seen one. I'd love to believe that the topics we talk about are real. And people ask me, well, Rob, if you don't believe, why have you kept on doing your show? It's very simple. I'm looking for the answer. And if I can't find the answer by talking to all the great people like you that I have on the show, Sharon, where else do you look for answers except by talking to people and adding all the information that you've accumulated over all these years and seeing if there's a pattern or seeing if there's a total difference in all these reports. And I'll tell you, 36 years of doing this show, if I didn't already have gray hair, I'd have gray hair by now.
I got gray hair too, so yeah.
Oh, you started at a very young age. So where do you think the hunt for Bigfoot is going to be going?
You know, the true answer, the scientific answer, is environmental DNA. That's the scientific answer. If there is an animal out there in the woods, it's funny because he's seen by lots of people. I'm saying he, generalizing.
Yes,
seen by lots of people, so he's everywhere, but no place because we can't find him. So it's very, very strange. He's got to be somewhere that people see him or relate to him and think that they're having it, but yet we can't find him. Environmental DNA is the technology that I think can do it for us. It was used on Loch Ness, if you remember, several years ago. It was tried there. They didn't find a mystery creature. It's useful. It's actually useful for biology in general. No matter what animal you're looking for, if you're collecting environmental DNA, you get a nice broad overview of what animals are in the area, and maybe we'll find some surprises. Will we find a Bigfoot? That would be amazing, but I don't know. We don't have DNA from Bigfoot, so we can't actually say that DNA that we find would be Bigfoot. And that's been tried before, and I wrote about the whole Melba Ketchum thing in the past.
Let's talk about that when we come back from this very short break.
You bet.
All right. Sharon Hill is our special guest, Exonation. SharonAHill.com is her website. And Sharon and I will return on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, and heard on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streamed around the world on classic1220.ca.
And suddenly, to my surprise,
He did the mash,
he did the monster mash.
the monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
he did the mash.
He did the monster mash. For my love Natari in the car.
I'm just wants what you think I've seen. Something strange, you know. Sasquatch sitting on the cypress knee, and he was talking to Moccasin Joe. Well, the party they gon' have out in the St. John Swamps. Sasquatch doing a brand new dance, and he called it the Bigfoot Stomp. Do the Bigfoot boogie, yeah, the Bigfoot boogie. Ain't nothing but a Sasquatch dancing around to do the Bigfoot boogie in the parallel ground. Eddie the Lizard, he a beating the drums, and Moccasin George, he's a running his gums. Stan the Snake, he's a playing the bass, and he'd a be partying all over the place. Oh, Gator Ralph, he'd a riding his bow, and he'd a be jamming with Moccasin Joe. A Sasquatch doing the brand new dance, the Bigfoot boogie in the parallel land. Do the Bigfoot boogie, yeah, the Bigfoot boogie. Ain't nothing but a Sasquatch dancing around it. Do the Bigfoot boogie in the parallel ground. Yeah, boy.
And welcome back, everyone. Sharon Hill is our special guest this hour. We're talking about cryptids and spooky geology and a lot more. If you'd like to find out more about Sharon, www.sharonahill.com. Sharon, let's talk about popular cryptids. What can you enlighten us with in this great, massive, most interesting topic?
So, like I said, things have changed in the 21st century.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the ideas that poor Bernard Heuvelmans used to have about a scholarly investigation of cryptozoology. Right now, cryptids are super popular. If you're on, and this may age us because I'm not on these things, TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr,
Hmm.
social media like that is deviant art is just loaded with people's interpretation of cryptids and stories of cryptids. It is super popular with young people. I mean, like 20 somethings and teens love this stuff. If you go to town festivals, and they are booming everywhere. I have a list on my other website, Modern Cryptozoology, where I'm listing town festivals for cryptids, and they're booming. They're doing fantastic business, and they're loaded with people who just love the idea that some weird monster is out there, or they just love to believe in it. So current polls of cryptids often happen around Halloween time. And they ask people, "What's your favorite cryptid?" And Bigfoot, and it's several varieties. Like the skunk
Hmm.
ape. They're still important, but in North America in particular, people love the chupacabra. They still love the Jersey
Really?
Devil. Yeah, they still love those. Those are really super popular. They're great American legends. But then there's this weird split. We're getting like some old stories that were not traditionally considered cryptids that are really surging in popularity. And some examples. Well, the big example, Mothman. Mothman is huge with the young people. They love it. They cosplay. They go to the Mothman festival. They have Mothman up all over their cubicles at work. They have T-shirts. They love it. Um, in addition, there's things like the Fresno Nightcrawler, which is a walking set of pants. That's the best way I can describe it. It's kind of like an alien thing. If you've never heard of it, you got to go on. You got to look for it. It's ridiculous. And the Dover Demon and Puckwudgies and the Loveland Frogman. I mean, just really wacky things from the past. And something that Lauren Coleman knew about these things, and he would talk about them as strange creatures. I'm not sure we ever considered them cryptids because we didn't think we'd actually find like an actual new species, but they're just weird. They're weird creatures, and everybody loves them.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's fun to believe. They're incredibly fun to draw and to make into cute plushies and stickers, and to wear them as T-shirts, to dress up as these creatures. It's a whole genre. There's something called cryptidcore. Have you ever heard of this before? Cryptidcore.
No, I haven't.
So young people online go on to things like Instagram and Tumblr, and they collect things that they like, and they put them up on mood boards. This is how I'm feeling today. I'm feeling like I want to look at, black roses. I'm feeling down. I want to be, or I love old things, dressed up as new things and in cottage core. So this is the way that people identify themselves. And cryptid core is an aesthetic where young people say, I love mysteries, I love conspiracies, I like the X-Files, I like I like the idea of weird animals and my woods being haunted, especially like in Appalachia. I like the idea that there's spirits in the woods, and I can go out and search for these hidden animals. And it's a whole way of identifying yourself. It's very weird. It's something people my generation and older have never experienced, but it's a way for people to identify online as being part of a group or a tribe. Isn't that interesting?
It is. It almost sounds as just like the Roswell Festival every year that people from all over Canada, the United States, as well as around the world go to Roswell, New Mexico to celebrate the Roswell crash UFO of 1947. It seems like it gives people an excuse to have a party.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's got a nice theme, and they all love it, and they all have lots of fun. Yeah.
Where do you think?
And in particular, for cryptids,
Yeah.
town festivals like Loveland in particular. Loveland, Ohio has 2 Frogman festivals because they love him so much. Brings Mothman Festival, huge, brings a lot of people into town, and like we talked about earlier, it's lucrative.
In your opinion, what was Mothman? Or what is Mothman? Because I don't know if it's
Boy,
dead or
yeah,
alive. Yeah.
that's a super tough question. You know what's interesting? There hasn't been a good biography of Mothman. I mean, there's lots of books on Bigfoot. There's even a good book on Chupacabra that tells the whole story from Ben Radford. There's one on the Jersey Devil by Brian Regal. There isn't a good book on the Mothman. There's smaller books that detail the experience that people had, you know, seeing Mothman at the
Right.
time, and the point in time that had happened in Point Pleasant. And of course you had the Mothman prophecies, which is not quite a biography. I mean, Keel wrapped a lot of things into Mothman, and it wasn't just a cryptid. It became a psychic UFO weird thing. I mean, it's a whole weird thing. It's high strangeness for sure. So I don't know what the Mothman was. It's really a whole bunch of things under one big umbrella called the Mothman. So yeah, it's weird.
Where do you think the paranormal, ufology, ghost hunting, cryptozoology would be if the internet had not been invented?
It's huge. You know, think about this. In the 70s to the 90s, what did we have? We had books, we had TV, a little bit of TV, late night radio, maybe some magazines like Fate and Strange and Fortean Times. Then by the 2000s, we have dozens of cable TV shows, the rise of the web. In the 2010s, we have social media kicking off, YouTube, Facebook. In the 2020s, we have an explosion of this do-it-yourself content, podcasts. The internet changed everything. It gave everybody a platform. And now you can find your tribe. You can find what you believe in and find a whole pile of other people who believe in that just like you. That's huge.
Has there been any new developments or any new species of mystery that has come up to your knowledge? For example, we've talked about cryptids, we've talked about ghosts, we've talked about UFOs, and crop circles. Has there been any new unexplainable discoveries that people are flocking to, like they have been with other aspects of the paranormal?
You know, I don't see too much of that. I tend to look at anomalous natural phenomena. So people will report in the news that they hear sky noises, or they see lights that aren't UFOs. So they're more like ground lights, like Earth lights are becoming a thing again. I love that kind of thing, and I think the Earth lights idea is ready to explode again into pop culture. As I mentioned earlier, it's associated with Bigfoot experience. There's other cryptid experiences. People who are out in the woods, they're not seeing lights up in the sky. They're seeing lights at ground level. And that's not new, but it's becoming really popular again.
Could it be that the lights that they're seeing at ground level are actually other Bigfoot enthusiasts with flashlights? And is it possible that the ground lights are actually something to do with tectonic plate movement?
For the former, it could be possibly other people. That's obviously an explanation, but people don't like to think that.
Oh.
For the latter, no. And I think that if we want to talk about Earth lights in terms of earthquake lights, that's a really complicated subject, but it's one I'm super interested in. But I think that people tend to say that could be it, but they really don't understand how earthquake lights work. They're very complex.
It's funny because when you're talking about earthquake lights and the other anomalies that we have no basic explanation for, animals have a keen sense when these things are happening.
It's rolled up into an entire idea about what happens before an earthquake and we feel it. It's something called like preparation. So there's stress underground. This is going to get complicated.
Okay.
I'm going to talk geology with you. Do you want me to go there?
I love it. Yes. See, I look for explanations, and this is what we're doing here. And I think that I've got to take a break shortly, but
sure.
I think this is what the world is missing now, is someone like yourself who looks at something like Earth lights, who has the scientific experience to try and look at it and explain to believers of the phenomena and other phenomena what it could be based on science, based on fact, instead of everything being based on folklore and God only knows what else some people think when they talk about these anomalies.
Oh, they just make stuff up,
Yeah. So when you say, I want to talk about that, I love it. I love bringing people on who can actually make sense of something, or they try to make sense of something using their knowledge. And I'm not talking about paper mill PhDs or paper mill people who just, waste their money, their time, and spending thousands of dollars to get a PhD from a paper mill that actually has no validity.
There are, let's talk about when we come back, 5 papers that have just come out that show additional support for earthquake lights.
All
and
right.
They are scientific research.
Let's do that. Exonation, Sharon Hill is our guest. SharonAHill.com is her website. And we'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone. We still have hour number 2 coming up, so don't go away. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ, here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada.
Sasquatch sitting on the cypress knee, and he was talking to Moccasin Joe. Well, the party they gonna have out in the St. John Swamps. Sasquatch doing a brand new dance, and he called it the Bigfoot Stomp. Do the Bigfoot boogie, yeah, the Bigfoot boogie. Ain't nothing but a Sasquatch dancing around. They do the Bigfoot boogie in the parallel ground. Eddie the Lizard, he a beating the drums, and Moccasin George, he's a running his gums. Stan the Snake, he's a playing the bass, and he'd a be partying all over the place. Oh, get a Ralph, he'd a riding his bow, and he'd Ivan was an old bear tracker. Tom was a man with dreams. And Ernie came along, and I wrote the songs about a creature that few's ever seen. Monsters, myths, and mysteries, legend, tales, and facts. It brought us all together, and it's a reason for the fact. Up in North California, where the redwoods reach the skies, 3 men with a gold and a pact that they'd hold, and a promise till the day that they died. Answers to the questions no one's found before. Driving determination, the only key they had to unlock the door. Monsters, myths, and mysteries, legend, tales, and facts.
And welcome back, everyone. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. My special guest is Sharon Hill. Her website is SharonAHill.com. Now, before we get back to our special guest, Sharon Hill, I would just like to remind all you pet owners out there that Halloween is a very stressful time for your animals because you have people coming to the door on a continuous basis. You have people who are coming to the door that may be dressed up in a way that might put your animal on guard. So, Halloween night, what I would suggest you do is put your animal, your fur baby, in a separate room and close the door. You know, you're not being mean, you're actually being very considerate. Also, if you're just going to go out and buy a black cat for Halloween and then you're going to put it up, bring it to a rescue, don't do that, because animals have feelings. You bring them into your home, they start to feel as part of your family. And then what happens after Halloween? Black cat is no longer part of the family. And believe it or not, animals do have feelings. So please remember this, that if you're going to get yourself a pet at any time, number one, make sure that your lifestyle can support a fur baby or any other animal. Number two, make sure that you have enough money that in case your little fur baby or your other kitty cat or whatever needs veterinarian attention, you can actually get it for them. Make sure that you've got enough money for the right food. Make sure that you take the little critter that you've brought home to be part of your family, proper exercising, that you go out for a walk, that you take them to the puppy walk farm. Make sure that you can do all this. And please be a responsible pet owner. And the reason I talk like this is one of the major contracts that I did many years ago with Realm McConnell Media was as the director of media and communications for the SPCA. I saw a lot of abuse when it came to animals. And you can tell that when they come into the shelter because they've been given up for adoption, you can see the sadness in their little eyes. You can really see it. So please, do your due diligence when it comes to bringing a little animal of any kind into your home. Also, to the men and ladies who work at shelters, the SPCA, whether it's a horse rescue, a dog rescue, cat rescue, whatever, thank you for what you do. God blesses you because, God, I've seen the hard work that you do. And Exonation, these people do this from their heart. They don't get paid. They don't get paid. They volunteer because they love animals. So there you go. A PSA from yours truly, Rob McConnell, on animal care. Let's get back to cryptids. First of all, Sharon, thanks very much for coming on the show. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. And you said that you've got a couple of scientific reports about earth lights.
So I really love earthquake lights, and many people will use tectonic plate movement, earthquake fault areas, as an excuse for maybe an explanation for weird things, high strangeness, lights, even UFOs, cryptid sightings, whatever. Anything that's happening, they might attribute it to some weird thing going on underground, and that's not true. It's more complicated than that. I mean, there are weird things that go on underground, but the fault areas that we know about are studied, and there's not a cluster of supernatural things going on or paranormal things going on in that area. But what we do have is more evidence coming out for the reality of earthquake lights. Now, my skeptical friends will tell me that earthquake lights are BS, that they don't exist, that they're just another type of paranormal, kind of paranormal explanation where people say they've seen these things, but they don't really exist because they're just anecdotes. But actually, 5 papers that I'm looking at right now, I'm trying to write this up for my blog, but it's a lot to condense. But papers from 2019 through to 2024 that show additional support for earthquake lights, primarily in Japan and China. And this new idea about them has been studied for over 10 years now, and I'm going to use some jargon here. It's called the LAIC, and that stands for lithospheric atmospheric ionospheric coupling. So the basis of this is that charged particles at the where the fault is actually breaking, those charged particles released from the ground prior to a quake, maybe from months ahead, to the time of the actual fault rupture, interact with the ground surface, they interact with the atmosphere and the upper atmosphere called the ionosphere, and they produce certain effects. Some of those things can be weird clouds, strange glows from far away, bursts of light, balls of light, strange things in the sky, and I find this fascinating. And it also potentially could be something that plants, animals, people, electronics, radio candles can be affected by these charged particles in certain ways. And I find this fascinating. And more is coming out. And the bottom line is that our seismologists, this is multidisciplinary, they may have been looking in the wrong place. You know, they're a specialist in a certain area, ground movement. They may not be looking at these charged particles, but we know that radon gets released prior to earthquakes. That's been measured in many places. Radon is radioactive. It's charged. It creates charged particles. So we know that this happens, but there's a lot of work yet to be done on this. And it may be that in the future, we may have a little bit more idea about precursors for big earthquakes, and that's really exciting.
That could also explain a lot of other aspects like UFOs, crop circles, and so on.
It might explain a whole pile of things that we didn't think of before. Right now, they have some satellites looking at this because that's the only way they can kind of see the ionosphere. Nobody thought to look up there to see these charged particles when they leave the ground. They show up in the ionosphere, but it's tricky because all earthquake areas are different. All earthquake slips are different. Things going on like geomagnetic storms make it difficult to see these things in the ionosphere. So it's very complicated. So that's why we haven't noticed it so far, because it's complex.
To your knowledge, is there any study being done or research being done by NASA and the crews of the ISS?
I don't think so. The last I'd heard was it was a French satellite that was monitoring for this, and I don't think it exists anymore. I think it lived its life out. But, you know, scientific organizations in Japan and China and even Russia are super interested in this idea. It's not that interesting to the U.S., although there is some private organizations that are looking into it. But places like Japan and China, they're affected severely by earthquakes. I mean, they will kill massive amounts of people, and they want to find a way to think about them differently and maybe get an early warning system. I'm not saying this is that, but I'm saying that's where they're looking. They're looking beyond the box right now. I think that's really cool.
It is. And it's good to see science taking a serious look at a lot of the anomalous events that are happening.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And I think that there are those people out there who are really worried about the scientific approach to investigating the paranormal, that it may actually burst the bubble. And instead of it being paranormal, it's very normal. And here is the explanation on why and how.
Yeah, science is hard.
Yeah.
That's why everybody doesn't do it. It takes a long time to formulate a research question and come up with experiments and do controls. And this is my problem with paranormal investigators. They try, they do their best.
Yeah.
But they don't have the capacity to do peer review or scientific papers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they need that. You need to have critique. That's what makes things better.
I was talking about paper mill PhDs before, and it was just discovered that one of the most prominent UFO researchers who claimed to have a PhD actually got his PhD from a paper mill. Wow. And that's going to put a black eye on the UFO community.
They got enough of those.
Yeah,
they don't need any more.
They really do. What is your take on UFOs?
I'm not a big fan of UFOs. I like lights when they're on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really cool because they could be part of Earth mysteries. Something coming out of the ground is quite interesting to me. I don't really like looking at the sky. I like looking at the ground. I'm a geologist. That's what I do. But the UFO community is bonkers right now, and it's too much for me to keep track of. So I don't. But it's turning into a religion to me. That's what I see it anymore. Is there's so much belief that it's almost a religion.
I think it's turning into a cult.
That too.
Yeah, and that's when things really go south.
Yeah.
Now, I've got about a minute and a half here. As a geologist, what is your take on the people who believe that the Earth is hollow, and they call it the hollow Earth theory?
I did some stuff on my website about hollow Earth and flat Earth, and it's just I think it relates to the distrust of society in authority and scientific information, and even religious authorities. People don't like authority anymore, and they want to be their own authority. And I don't know why they want to believe these things, but it makes them feel important. It makes them feel special to believe in a conspiracy. And I really think it comes back to the idea that we are rejecting authority. And I'm not sure. I think that's complex.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it is.
First of all, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us tonight, Sharon. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. And I wish you and yours a very happy Halloween from everyone here at the X Zone. And how can our listeners find out more about you and your blog, your website, and so on?
Yeah, my blog is mostly long form pieces. I don't do a lot of them, but when I do, I try to give it all my all and make it something interesting and new at SharonAHill.com. I also do the cryptid thing, and that's at moderncryptozoology.wordpress.com. So if that's what you're interested in, pop over there and see my stuff on Pop Goes the Cryptids.
Pop Goes the Cryptids. I love it. And I'll tell you what, if we hear any stories that we haven't heard before on cryptozoology or any of the topics that you and I talk about, I'll make sure that we let you know for the use research as well as your blog. So Sharon,
Great.
thank you so much for everything you do, and I wish you and yours a happy Halloween. Be safe.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
All right, X Zone Nation, I'll be back on the other side of this break as hour number 2 of the X Zone starts right now here from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and just down the street on Classic 1220 CFAJAM, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Whatever you do, don't go out. Don't go away. Hour 2 of the X Zone starts right now.
Ivan was an old bear tracker. Tom was a man with dreams.